November 4th, 1922. After years of fruitless searching, archaeologist Howard Carter finally discovers the tomb of King Tutankhamun, one of the most important finds in human history. And while it would seem that nothing could follow such an exciting event, everyone involved with the discovery would soon realize that the discoveries inside the tomb were only the beginning. While most people know of the famous bust of the boy king found in the tomb, what is now known as the Mask of Tutankhamun, there were actually 3 masks in the tomb, each fascinating in their own right. In addition to the large golden burial mask placed over the king's face, there was also a smaller gilded wooden mask which had been part of the mummy's wrappings, and a third small mask made of expensive blue glass. The latter 2 were discovered by Carter's colleague, the Egyptologist and architectural draftsman T.E. Lawrence, better known today as Lawrence of Arabia. Yet while the 3 masks were certainly fascinating artifacts, none of them were actually used during the burial ceremony itself. That role belonged to a plaster funerary mask that had been damaged at some point in the past and repaired with a white linen bandage. What made this mask particularly special, though, was that unlike the other masks, it bore no trace of the young king's features. This has led some to believe that the mask was blank so that the spirit of Tutankhamun could look out upon the world through any face it wished. If you're finding this video fascinating so far, don't forget to check out our previous videos and hit the subscribe button. You'll get more amazing history content that way. Thank you. The first death linked to the tomb came less than 2 years after its discovery. On April 5, 1924, Lord Carnarvon, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, and his friend, the explorer and writer Patrick Clayton, were dining together in a Cairo restaurant when Carnarvon suddenly collapsed. According to Clayton, who survived the night, Lord Carnarvon had complained of feeling unwell for several days before the incident and had gone to bed early that evening, but was summoned back to dinner by his wife. The dinner did not agree with him, however, and shortly afterwards he suffered a fit and died of a pulmonary embolism brought on by a mosquito bite. Though the news of Lord Carnarvon's sudden death made international headlines, it wasn't long before speculation arose that there was more to his untimely passing than a simple mosquito bite. Just weeks before his death, newspapers around the world had carried the story of the discovery of the tomb of the boy king, and the rumors of a tomb curse were already taking off. It seemed all the more likely when Lord Carnarvon's dog, who had stayed in Egypt with him, reportedly whined and then died the same night that his master passed away. Though this detail was never substantiated, the myth of the curse had already taken root in the public imagination. Within months of Lord Carnarvon's death, another person connected with the discovery of the tomb was dead. On September 16, 1924, George J. Gould, a wealthy American visitor to Egypt, fell ill and died suddenly at the Hotel Cecil in London in 1818. Soon, the papers were claiming that Gould's demise was yet another victim of the tomb's curse. While the deaths of Lord Carnarvon and Mr. Gould were tragic and inexplicable, the next death to be linked with the curse was perhaps the most compelling of all. Sir Archibald Douglas Reid, a Scottish physician and radiologist, was asked by Howard Carter to X-ray the mummy of Tutankhamun. According to some reports, he refused to do the procedure unless Carter himself would submit to the same radiation. When the results revealed that the body was filled with amulets and bandages, Reid reportedly remarked, "I don't want to see any more Egyptian mummies," and he returned to Scotland, where he spent a few weeks visiting friends. On December 19, 1924, however, Sir Archibald developed a high fever and died 6 days later on Christmas Eve, having never worked with X-rays again. With 4 deaths connected to the discovery of the tomb, it's not surprising that many people began to wonder if perhaps the legends of a tomb curse were true. While the truth of the curse has never been proven, there are many possible explanations for these deaths. Some experts attribute them to scientific causes, suggesting that ancient tombs may contain dangerous levels of toxic mold or bacteria. These spores can cause severe illness and even death in humans, especially those with compromised immune systems. One study published in the Journal of Nature Chemical Biology even suggests that some Egyptian tombs contain enough botulinum toxin to kill 15 average-sized adults. This toxin is produced by the bacterium Clostridium botulinum and is the same toxin that causes botulism, a rare but serious illness that can cause paralysis and respiratory failure. While it's possible that botulinum toxin may have played a role in the deaths of some of the excavators and researchers, there's no evidence to support this theory. Others have suggested that the deaths were simply a case of coincidence, with many of the deaths being of older individuals who were already in poor health. What's more, some historians argue that many of the details surrounding these deaths were either fabricated or exaggerated by journalists looking to make a good story. For example, Lord Carnarvon's dog supposedly dying on the same night as its owner was never reported in any official capacity and appears to be nothing more than a sensational detail invented by the press. Similarly, the claim that Sir Archibald Douglas Reed refused to examine anyone else with X-rays is contradicted by his medical records. Regardless of the cause, the deaths created enough of a stir that an author named Agatha Christie capitalized on it in her novel and film adaptation, The Mystery of the Blue Train. Yet, while the deaths surrounding the discovery of the tomb remain a mystery, there are others that suggest there may be more to the story than just coincidence. As previously mentioned, several of the deaths were of people who had never even visited Egypt. This includes the death of Arthur C. Mace, an assistant to Lord Carnarvon, who passed away from pneumonia in England. Several months after the discovery of the tomb, as well as the death of Mary, Queen of Romania, who died in 1924, 8 months before Sir Archibald, while visiting Egypt. Perhaps most compelling is the fact that several of the individuals who died had been warned not to pursue their respective endeavors. Both Lord Carnarvon and Sir Archibald were told by their wives to stay away from the project, but both men chose to ignore their pleas. What's more, Sir Archibald had apparently been warned in a dream not to mess with the dead. He awoke in a cold sweat and changed his mind about pursuing the X-ray. Only when he heard that Carter wanted to examine his own bones as well did he agree to go ahead with the procedure. There's also the strange fact that each individual who died had some connection to the discovery of the tomb. The exception to this rule is that of Mary, Queen of Romania, who was staying at the hotel when news of the discovery broke. Her subsequent decision to travel to the tomb is what ultimately led to her death. So what exactly happened to these people? Were they victims of a genuine curse? Innocent people caught in the crossfire of an age-old vendetta between the living and the dead? Or was there a more scientific explanation for the deaths? Unfortunately, the truth is likely more mundane than that. All things considered, the deaths were probably just a series of unfortunate coincidences. Of the 7 people who died, 5 were over 60 years old, making their deaths much more likely. Furthermore, several of the individuals had been in poor health before they traveled to Egypt, making their deaths even more probable. Finally, many of the deaths occurred over a period of only 2 years, making it likely that they were just a series of unfortunate coincidences. As for the idea that a tomb curse was responsible, there's no evidence to support this claim. What's more, the Egyptians believed that curses were ineffective against family members and close friends. Given that most of the people who died were either directly involved with the excavation of the tomb or closely associated with it in some way, it seems unlikely that the Egyptians would have held them responsible. However, whether or not a curse was truly responsible for the deaths, it's clear that the legend has captured the public imagination. From books and films to TV shows and video games, stories of the Curse of the Mummy have become a staple of popular culture. And as long as people are fascinated by ancient Egypt, stories of the curse will continue to be told. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And thank you for watching.